Hello, today I'm back at it, amplifying an important message around diversity in the business technology realm. Now, there's ample focus on STEM for women in technology, but underneath that is a typical view of front end and back end development as where a lot of the focus goes for those trying to get into the STEM world. Well, why this is still very necessary. There are many other aspects of business technology that everyone needs to have a seat at the table. Further, with the expansion of the metaverse, this seat will take new forms, but still needs openness to foster inclusiveness. With all this in mind, I'm joined by Kathryn Rose. Kathryn is the founder of ChannelWise and a new B2B brand launching soon. And she speaks to many different women and girls to help empower them and equip them with the insights, guidance, and tools needed to succeed today and in the future. Well, we'll chat about some exciting new stats, challenges still being faced, and how could the metaverse impact all of this? Well, stay tuned. Well, hello, Kathryn. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It's a pleasure to be chatting with you, and we'll be diving into some interesting topics today around not only diversity and technology and STEM, but some exciting things that's going on with you and your organization. But before we get into that, I was wondering if you could briefly introduce yourself and
Sure.
the company you're with and so forth.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Thanks for having me. My name is Kathryn Rose, and I am the CEO and founder of wiseHer. We are a proprietary technology platform that powers one-on-one synchronous connections that help folks move their business or career forward. And we're just about to launch a new B2B brand specifically for the channel organizations and technology channel called ChannelWise. So that's about me. And I'm in chilly Boston, just in case anyone's wondering.
Oh, okay.
It's freezing here.
Oh. Well, we're just coming out of the freeze here in Ohio, so it's we're all good. So, well, good. It's exciting to hear that new frontiers on the horizon here, exciting new things. I'm always glad to hear that in conversations I have with guests. But something else exciting I saw as I was getting ready for our conversation was that I saw recently that you, I think your organization got part of the Startup of the Year Summit.
Yeah.
Got in the top 15. I didn't know if you could share a bit about that. Some exciting news there.
We were really excited about it because, thousands of folks apply for Startup of the Year, and then they narrow it down to the top 100. And then, you're pitching, and it's just a great organization, really a bunch of folks that are very, very dedicated to moving startups forward, and particularly in the underrepresented area as well. So it was really interesting to go and hear about all these different startups. And, what we're doing is not in the metaverse or blockchain, or, you know what I mean? So when I first went, I thought, I'm not really sure, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And we talked about, the experts that we've curated and the platform and the evolution and how we connect folks together to give them that advice that they need. And it resonated. And so, so we were really excited to be in that semi-finalist position.
That's awesome. And it sounds like there's undercurrent there of a great mix of representation from startups, as far as from diversity and other cultural related startups, I'm sure, that were in the mix there.
Absolutely. Again, that organization is very dedicated to serving all startups, not just maybe the more traditional ones that folks, we'll see out in the media.
Oh, that's it always excites me to hear that, as far as just giving people an opportunity to engage with a broader community and get their name out and showcase what they do, but showcase their great ideas and what they're looking to accomplish with their companies and their organizations. So kudos to you. I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was some exciting news. And then shifting gears a bit here, just a couple of days ago, actually, February 11th was International Day of Women and Girls in Science. And this was conceived back in 2015. And I was looking into this, and the reason this caught my eye too was not only your passion around a lot of the women in technology, diversity, and so forth, but also my daughter is, really looking into these as, after high school, what she's going to do. And it just kind of excites me that there's this great initiative behind what's going on. And I was looking at some of the stats that are quite astounding. They've had close to 6,900 participants of the program. And so a lot of distinguished speakers and scholarships given. And so I didn't know if you had dug into this or seen the impact of this and with what you're doing when you're connecting people together.
Well, yes, clearly over the years, we've definitely made great strides. I have a daughter myself who's 9, so I'm starting to, kind of see her progression as well. But the international, the Day of Women and Girls in Science has been a really exciting initiative for a lot of folks out there. I speak oftentimes at the Women in Tech Summits, and those are run through an organization creating IT futures. And also backed by an organization called Tech Girls, which specifically focuses on STEM initiatives of girls in middle school. And that is typically the time when they kind of fall out of these ideas of making a career in STEM. And there's, of course, also the Grace Hopper conference. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but that's the largest conference for women in the technology sciences area. And there's over 20,000 women every year attend these from all over the world. So, again, we've made a lot of really great strides, I think, and obviously there's more work to do, but it's exciting to see, the numbers continuing to climb.
Yeah, and it always just it excites me that you never know what ideas and creativity and things that can be brought to the table, and you bring everyone to the table, giving them an equal seat at the table. I think it's just so amazing to see what's accomplished and what we're finally putting into place and recognizing that everyone needs to have that seat at the table. And in line with this, kind of a little bit on the flip side of some of the challenges they're facing here, I saw a recent post from the Air Force. Actually, it was check here. There was Master Sergeant Brianna Moulane, who's with the Cyber Command, U.S. Cyber Command group, and stated that the biggest challenge in working in a STEM field is the self-assessment of your own capabilities. It's almost like that self-doubt, or you're putting too much pressure on yourself to achieve something, and you value your capabilities a lot in the STEM fields lower than your male counterparts. I don't know if that's what you're seeing when you're as part of the organization. I know you're matching people together for that, connections. And are you hearing more of that, or is this conversation shifting more positively, or is there still the challenges and work needs to be done?
Well, there's obviously still work to be done, Aaron. I mean, that's across the board. It's not just in the STEM environment.
Right.
Women typically have challenges with imposter syndrome, and it's not just women, but it seems to manifest itself a little bit more in women, or at least we recognize it a little bit more. So we do have a fair amount of folks in our network, our experts that do take a lot of calls, and we do some talks and things around how to counteract, imposter syndrome. I think, as you mentioned earlier, it's not, just making a seat at the table. It's inviting, people to come to the table, and it's embracing all the different thoughts and the different ideas that people across the board have. And I think that goes a long way to helping to alleviate some of this imposter syndrome, because if you're invited to the table, one, you feel like, you're invited participant. So now I feel free to speak. And when I do speak, I'm not shut down. I'm not interrupted. I'm not, I don't, speak my idea. And then someone else with a lower voice says the same thing. And they're like, oh, great point. So I think that a lot of those kinds of things can really lend themselves to giving women and others, underrepresented folks, the ability to feel like they are worthy, like they do belong there, and give them that platform to be able to thrive.
Well, you mentioned we're talking around this, invitation and the seat at the table, and you mentioned a moment ago is the word metaverse, because we've got our metaverse channel and acceleration economy, but it makes me think if things like this could be drastically different, because now your virtual avatar, if you will, could be anything really, and it could be your virtual representation of who you are, but that could change, the playing field as far as creativity, ideation, sharing your voice. But now it's just a different medium to do that. And I'm wondering, does that you think that opens some potential opportunities, or is it just shift a bit?
Well, I think would be sad in a way, honestly, that I would have to change my avatar in the metaverse to be a man, so I would be heard. I don't necessarily know that is going to really, negate the need for a lot of this stuff. But I certainly would be interested to see how it plays out over time.
Yeah, because a lot of times what I'm seeing, and the apologies for the dog here, but is that where in the metaverse you can actually be, really, it doesn't have to be, you could be an animal if you wanted. It could be anything you want. Yeah. But to your point, you shouldn't have to feel that you have to change.
I shouldn't have to be something other than what I am.
Exactly. Yep. And then the other opportunity I was thinking of is just opens potential new doors that you can get invited to things that maybe here in the physical space, there were certain limitations that could come up. And I think that really provides a way that we need to rethink things. A lot of conversation I've been having around metaverse and so forth has been rethinking a lot of stuff, and it can't be a poor copy of our physical reality and world into this newer world.
But remember, the people who are programming or setting up this metaverse are people. Right.
Yes,
so
that's right.
At the end of the day, even with Siri and with Alexa, which is probably going to hear me talk about her. Yeah. I was just worried. I was like, oh no, she's going to talk to me. Anyway, but even with those, they were oftentimes they were programmed by male developers. And so they still doesn't really recognize my voice, as that I just said her name and she didn't respond to me. And she's right there. And so it really only as good as the metaverse doesn't come out of, the ether, someone has to set it up. So as long as the folks who are setting it up and artificial intelligence and all these things have this diverse voices and diverse perspectives, then you'll be able to maybe have more, opportunity for folks down the line.
Yeah, you mentioned something around artificial intelligence, and a big effort right now with AI is inherent bias that comes in. Whether it's AI that's learning as it goes, it had to learn from something at the genesis of it. Yes. And it's pulling data from certain places, and sometimes it's bias that's not intentional, and then there's unintentional bias. That you think about. Some is intentional.
Yes.
But sometimes we got to think about the bias factor, because AI is going to be the back end on top of all this data that's going to feed into the metaverse here, and bias now is shifting in all different ways through our technical world, not only physical interactions, but now our digital and virtual. So I think, now is the time we've got to set up and establish those guidelines. I was just chatting with somebody, I think it was just a few days ago, it was very recently, around since the inception of the database, 50 years ago or more, it took all this time to just get to GDPR, was just a few years back for data privacy. Right. And then beyond that, now we're seeing the emergence of AI guidelines and frameworks and policy, which underneath that is fairness and bias and explainability around AI. Mm-hmm. So that came kind of quickly on the heels of this GDPR. I think very quickly we're going to see the same sort of thing emerge for the metaverse, because underneath the current of all this, again, we want to be able to ensure everyone has a fair shot at everything that goes on here. That's not, again, a poor representation of our physical, but this is a chance to reimagine and
chance to reimagine. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And take it further than what we put on limitations here in the physical space. But I do want to shift gears. There's something I'd love to get kind of your take on. I recently had an opportunity to do a mentorship session with several young people from around the world. They're just getting started in like full stack development. And there were some from Eastern Europe, Africa, just all over the world, different countries. And I think in that group, I think it was seven people, but only 2 of them were women on the group. And then besides that, the leader of this group that organizes this program, she's based in London. So say 3 people in the group, 3 women. Well, yes, I was encouraged, and I was very encouraged by their stories. One was working with a startup. So I was trying to encourage her that, with startups, you can actually see a more immediate impact of your work versus, say, in a larger enterprise where it has to go through several layers and approval. You can have a faster impact. So I was just trying to encourage her with that, because they were. And what I loved with all of them was what got them there. The key theme was curiosity.
Yeah.
They did not let any limitations to, language barriers or learning barriers to get where they were. They sought out ways. One guy that was on there, he had been a bartender for 7 years. He decided he got into a rut. I want to shift gears. I want to get into technology. So it was fascinating to hear their stories, but the theme of the curiosity brought them all together into this group. And I was just encouraged by every one of the stories. I don't know if you're coming across similar stories where are there's young people that are kind of new into, say, technology or the business world here, business technology, to mash it together, that are just as excited and passionate, but still just uncertain. What do I do? Where do I go? I don't know if you're seeing a lot of that.
And there's so many other jobs in technology that just that aren't just coding.
Yes.
Being a full stack developer is extremely challenging. Because it's literally moving at the speed of light. And I'm not saying that people should or should not look at full stack development, but that's just one kind of indicator, I think, because there's a lot of back end developers and front end developers, designers, across the board. I mean, my daughter has been learning how to code pretty much since kindergarten, right? It's infused in all of the different activities, and every single year they've kind of built on top of everything. And she would rather paint. That's her. That's her thing. So it wasn't like we steered her in any direction, but that's just kind of where she gravitated to. I have other friends who are, either looking to return to work after a break, or just, they're at a certain age that they're like, I really want to try something new. And there's some really great opportunities out there that you don't need it. It used to be that you needed a computer science degree, right? And now you don't need those anymore. So a lot of companies like IBM had instituted a few years back where they called it the new collar worker. So you could take, maybe coding boot camps or different things like that. And they've removed a lot of the requirements to have a bachelor's. The CompTIA, the largest IT association, they have just launched the Career Tech Academy that goes along with a lot of the certifications they offer in cybersecurity and things like that. And they do offer scholarships for folks who are, maybe in the underserved markets. And so you see a lot of programs out there that are really encouraging people at all levels to get in. One of the challenges, though, is not only getting women and others excited about being part of technology, but it's retaining them. So that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother subject. But I think that, what you saw in that, it is true that there are, again, we're still making strides, and there's a lot of focus on women in technology. But I know a lot of women who are like, well, I want to be involved in technology, but I just don't want to code. It's just not my thing, right? And so we have to accept, we have to encourage those other types of careers as well.
Yeah, I just, something I came across, I just had written an article for the Metaverse, and I came across She calls herself by the moniker the gaming grandma. She's I think it was Japan. She's 90 years old and just started getting into gaming. And she has a YouTube channel, a lot of subscribers and everything. But from a gaming technical side, that's totally different. You know, a lot of people use technology to create art. I've seen a lot of creative digital art out there that it just amazes me what they come up with, you know, and creativity. So it's this mashup of being aware of technical tools, I think, that are there. To your point of you don't have to necessarily code or be a hardcore front end, back end developer. If you would like to do that, you know, go for it. I'd love to see more of that. But just being aware of technical resources, I think it goes back to your notion. I like what you mentioned, that term new collar, because I think that helps break down old school perceived barriers of trying to get into some sort of workforce with some companies and that could be a money barrier. They just don't have the means to go to to get, you know, higher education schooling, but I can get some other programs that can assist me to get similar learning or hands-on learning and apprenticeship programs that I think are very valuable or just as valuable. And you mentioned with technology moving at the speed of light a while ago, it's almost as like you get a degree in something and maybe 1-2 years later, it really doesn't mean
30
much.
days.
Yeah, exactly.
It changes a lot. But you know, it's interesting. So I did a talk at a conference last year, and one of the subjects was around, you know, how to get more folks, as you know, the Great Resignation and all these things are happening around us. And what I encourage a lot of the folks in the audience who are all technology channel partners was, you know, you mentioned apprenticeships, but like, look at least in the United States, we have a lot of regional technology. We have a regional technology high schools. So in Massachusetts, we have regional technology academies like all over, and they're part of the public school system. It's not, you know, and what's interesting about that is that, you know, it used to be in the traditional trades, you know, automotive and welding and things like that, but they've added in computer tech and manufacturing that uses all, you know, computerized, you know, means to make parts for, you know, the space shuttle, like stuff like that. So, you know, that's another avenue for a lot of people, because again, it's, you know, part of the public school system, but they also have apprenticeship programs fully built in. Because again, they send a lot of folks to apprenticeships programs in the electrical fields and in the construction fields. So they're doing a lot of that internally with these computer and they have a cybersecurity. So what I say to folks, if you're really looking for, you know, diverse candidates and bringing people in at a younger age, when you can kind of help them grow into a technology career, these regional technical high schools are a great way to find good talent, hands-on learners that are excited to be a part of that and grow grow into those careers.
Right. So here in our region, we our high schools here partner with the local county career centers, and they have these programs where they will bus the high school students over to the career centers, and that's where they go for the day versus going to the high school for their junior and senior years. So they could actually graduate high school with some college credits already, depending on what they're going for. My daughter's going to be taking advantage of that come next year. She's already scouting out what she wants to do and all this stuff. So it's kind of exciting. But yeah, I love programs like that. Just like you said, there's partnerships with high schools to help them see the possibilities. I think that's where I'm really, you know, trying to get the message out, to see the possibility that's there. And then behind all that, encouragement all along the way that you can do this, you know, and then if it requires me help, you know, opening the doors to help with the invitation to come in to have that seat at the table, like we talked about earlier. And I'm willing to do that, you know, for this upcoming generation that's coming along and others, because I want to see, you know, everyone get a chance to do this. But hey, we're running out of time here a bit. I was wondering if you had a couple just quick takeaways for to challenge our listeners?
Well, I think one thing is it's one thing to open the door, but it's another thing to keep the door open. And we know one of the biggest challenges, particularly for women in any field, but most often in the STEM fields, is that, you know, we need to be welcoming, right? First, we need to be intentional about recruiting people. I hear a lot of times, oh, you know, there's no pipeline. Well, there are people. You just have to be willing to lean in. You have to be willing to give the time that it might take to maybe bring that person up to speed, but they'll stick with you. But also is making sure they continue to feel welcome. You know, women would like to have children, some of us, right? And so that's obviously a challenge for employers. I'm not, I'm an employer myself, so I get it. But at the same time, like, we need to make sure that we are continuously keeping the door open, inviting those conversations, having those, hard conversations, but, fostering a culture of inclusivity, and making sure that we're constantly checking in to and providing the resources. It could be my platform, it could be my experts, it could be internal, folks or whatever, but it needs to be that the access has to be there to keep them engaged and excited about being part of your organization. I think those are the big things that I really would like to challenge people to do is, again, really think about how to be intentional about it, opening the door, pulling up the chair, but also then keeping it open. And how do you retain this talent that you've spent a lot of time and really nurtured?
I like that thing you said, checking in. I think that's what's needed is a lot of people, they feel welcome, they're in there, but then there's this burnout that could happen along the way. So checking in with people and making sure they feel like they've got a support system around them and a community around them, I think is vitally important, just as equally important, I should say, is bringing people in and keeping the door open. So, well, Kathryn, thank you so much for the conversation today. It's been a pleasure. Time flew by, but a lot of ground we covered, but it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Same. Thank you, Aaron.